Hey guys, welcome back for another video. And cheers. This is my third time trying to make this video. First two just got too long and too rambling because I was trying to cover too much stuff. Screw it. This is my last attempt. So I'm going to give you, don't worry, a too long didn't read synopsis in just a minute here at the beginning. So if you want to then follow and watch all the details and the nitty gritty after that, which I encourage you to do because there is a lot of info you're going to want to know, stay tuned. So I've been doing over the past few weeks a project with Dirac in my living room theater just to test if physical mic placement during the measurement phase, where you put the mic, how many points, that kind of thing, can have an effect on the soundstage for 2-channel listening and the Atmos immersion effect, the bubble, the 3D bubble for Atmos movies. I've had a filter for about the last year that I've been extremely happy with. I don't remember what version it was created on. I know it was prior to 3.4.4. Most of this test is on the current production 3.7.2. Don't worry, I didn't find anything meaningful different between the versions as far as the effects on this, so it doesn't really matter what version you're on as far as I can tell. Now, a big caveat, this is my system in my room. These may or may not have the same or similar effects in your system. You're going to have to try it and test. However, that being said, I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago, I posted a quick synopsis after I ended the project, found my results on ABS forum, and one guy had already taken it and run with it, and by all accounts, by his report, got very good results in line with what I found. And he started out his post with, "Holy bubble, Batman, I've never had this in my theater until now." So I encourage you to try it. I not only tested that, I've got a whole cheat sheet here of just talking points. So I'm going to run through these, and as far as showing you how the patterns looked, my original thought in my head was to make a collage in Photoshop of where I had the mic in each position so you could see the pattern, and it just started turning into a hot mess. So scrap that idea. I'll take you in here later in the video, and I'll just show you in a video where I put the mic so you can see what's going on for yourself. But I tested dozens of different variations, different patterns, different number of points in the patterns. I hit all the popular ones. I did the one you see in Dirac, which is kind of like a sphere of points around the first point, and variations of that. And that's what my second best that I've been using was based on. Like I said, I was very happy with the results, but I wasn't quite getting all of the Atmos effects that I knew was there, but I am now. So, too long didn't read. The best pattern that I found was basically a domino. 6 points in a rectangle, all at the same level. The first point, level with my ears, but 8 inches forward of the back of the seat. So if I have my head back in the seat, it's a few inches forward. It's kind of like where my nose would be instead of in between where my ears would be. I maintained 8 inches away from everything, including each additional point. So that was the first point. The next two were 8 inches to the side, just directly to the side. And then the last 3 were simply 8 inches forward of those. So a row of 3 and a row of 3. 8 inches from the back of the seat and everything 8 inches from one another. That's it. That being said, let's get into exactly what I did and what I found. Now, I've got some notes here on what I found with different tests and patterns and all that kind of good stuff. I'm going to cut most of that out because this was over an hour long last time and I was still skipping stuff. Went over that. Okay, so the first thing I have to give you is a caveat. This is only about single seat results. I did not test for multi-seat because it's simply not important to me here in this theater. I'm the only one that really cares about movies and the whole home theater and all that kind of good stuff. Everybody else watching, they're just enjoying the content. They couldn't care less or even are aware of all the nitty-gritty details. I think that's probably going to be common to most of us and most of you watching this video. So this is only about center seat, and I should also note center seat. My center seat is center with the TV, centered between the speakers. If you have a single seat, but it's off to the side, I don't know what effect that's going to have because I didn't do any testing in a single seat not centered. That would have been another week of work. But go ahead and try it. Please let me know what you find, either here or on AVS in the Dirac Live thread. And this is only about Dirac. I have no idea. I doubt this would work similarly for other types of room correction. Okay, so the center point, the first point I should say, is the most important, no matter what you do. And no matter what kind of pattern you use, how many points, how many seats you're measuring, your first point is critical. It should always be in line with your head wherever you may be sitting, because that is what is primarily responsible for setting your bass, speaker delays, and levels. I have a feeling they might change a little bit depending on the additional data, but for the most part, that's what locks everything in. So if you don't take that first point correctly, everything else will be off no matter what you do. Each additional point is simply additional data to Dirac. Now, the problem is their instructions have changed over the years, Dirac's. They've changed how they suggest you should be measuring the points, where they should be, what they're good for, that kind of. For instance, right now, they've got a video up of how to do the measurement video using a little puck mic that comes with some of the lower end receivers now, and they're placing it feet in front of your seating on a coffee table. They're placing it on the armrest and on the cushion of the seats. Makes no sense to me. I don't care what company you are, I don't care who you are. I don't believe for a second that will ever give you good results. And certainly not based on my testing of doing even fairly normal points. So I do not suggest following that. But if you look in their software, they show their suggestion for, like I said, a bit of a sphere around your single seat. And then if you expand to more points to do more seats, just kind of expanding that sphere into an oval across the seats. But not what I found to be the best. And then you have Storm Audio, who has a pretty similar layout. However, they don't have any specific instructions for single seat. They just show a generic couch, and their main point is don't ever take a measurement at the same level up and down as any other point. So just make them all random. Tested that. Also did not find that to be the best. I found 5 points to be the absolute minimum to get everything sounding right. Nothing sticking out as wrong. I did my testing 2 different types of ways. One, music, 2-channel testing. And I was looking for soundstage. How wide was the soundstage? Did it go past the speakers? Did it have a very cohesive left to right pan? Did it have a locked in center? Could I hear any depth? Could I pinpoint objects on the soundstage? Did the speakers completely disappear? And the answer is yes, in both my second best and this new one. For movies, I tested a few different scenes, and I'll run through those, but a couple that are very easy to test. One is the Baby Driver scene where they pull up to the bank, he lets him out, he starts his music, he's got little earbuds on. If you have everything dialed in, that music that he's listening to should sound like it's just right on top of your head. It should almost sound like you're wearing earbuds. You can still hear everything else around the room and coming from different points in the space, but it should sound like what he's listening to, you're listening to. If you don't have that effect, what happens is, and this is true of any of these tests where it isn't quite dialed in, the sound field disperses, and you'll hear sound from up above, you'll hear sound from the speakers, you'll hear sound kind of wrapping around, but you don't get that 3D bubble effect where objects are in the space. Another test is with the Ready Player One race scene, just the 2 little sections where one of the other guys crashes, he turns into coins, and then the main character opens his door and sucks up the coins. Those coins should sound like they're in the middle of your room, in front of you. They should not sound like they're up in front, just panning between your 3 front speakers. It should be into the room more. Almost like you can reach out and grab them yourself. And that again, that effect, the Atmos bubble effect, is the first thing to go when something's not dialed in, and it's the last thing that you experience when you do get it all dialed in. So this is not a subtle effect. This is not a thing you have to think about where, am I hearing that? Is it kind of what he's talking about? No. When you hear some of these that I'm talking about, it's literally going to be an oh moment. So don't worry, if you have not experienced that, it's not quite dialed in. So you won't ever have to think about, am I really getting what he's talking about? You'll know. And if you don't know, you don't have it. There's another, gravity, just the opening couple minutes of gravity. This isn't one that uses a lot of objects in the room, but it is one that has extremely smooth panning in a sphere all around you, above, behind, and to the sides. So the voices should be just evenly sweeping around you. You shouldn't hear anything bouncing from speaker to speaker. You shouldn't be able to tell there's a speaker, it's coming out of that speaker, his voice is coming out of that speaker. It should just be completely blended, totally blended. If you listen to it with headphones, you'll understand what a seamless experience it can be. You shouldn't ever know that you're listening to just 2 speakers on the side of your head. That's what I'm talking about. There's another scene I'm forgetting, but I'll think about it when I go inside and I'll show you the points and everything. I found that over 9 points for a single seat started to just not lose it. It didn't get totally diffused, but it wasn't as real sounding. It wasn't quite as locked in. 2-channel didn't really have much of an effect, but the bubble started to suffer. The baby driver scene especially. Oh, this is a scene that I was forgetting and is very, very easy. This is the last one that I got locked in. Might be hard for you to find. It's a Dolby demo scene off one of their demo discs. You can download it at various places if you search for it, but it's the Shattered scene, and it's real short. It's a baseball, and this scene, this demo scene, is meant specifically to bring out 3D objects in the room. It's a baseball that crashes through a window and then goes into slow-mo. So you've got glass shards going around you, and that just sounds like an enveloping sphere, but the baseball itself should sound like it goes to the right of you. Shouldn't sound like it's off to the side in your surround channels. Shouldn't sound like it's against the wall. Again, you shouldn't be able to track it through a specific speaker. It should just sound like it just kind of whooshes. I've seen some people say that it sounds like it's right next to your ear. Maybe it does in a better theater setup. I just get it kind of, I mean, I can tell it's there, but it's to the right of me. Good enough for my use, that's for sure. I tested multiple measurements at the same points just to see if adding more data would affect it. And unfortunately, it did. It had the same effect as just measuring too many points. Now, I've seen this described as over-processing by Dirac. That's my best guess as to what's happening. But again, even just 2 measurements not moving the mic, it just makes it a little more diffuse, doesn't lock it in. I tested with my best one, my 6-point, adding 2 more kind of over into the side seats just a little bit, plus another one slightly forward. I tested them as a rectangular cube, so 2 different levels. You have to do that and branch every single test if you want to really test everything. But again, you don't have to. I did not find anything less than 5 to be acceptable and anything more than 9. So stay between 5 and 9 if you're on a single seat, and I think you'll be very pleased with the results. Went over that. I did not make any measurement points that did not have a direct line of sight to all of my speakers. So for example, the basic Dirac, it's a severe. They want you to, now they're showing in their diagram a very low back couch. I have higher back home theater seats and my ears are just over the top of them, but my ears have direct line of sight to everything. If I were to go back like Dirac shows, the mic would be in between two seat backs, for example, and I wouldn't have any sight to my surround speakers and probably a couple of my Atmos speakers. So I didn't do any of that. I made sure that things were just far enough in range to have a complete line of sight. That's pretty much beyond that center point. The only rules that you want to follow for however you want to do your measurement. So the interesting thing I found was the difference between keeping a pattern on one horizontal plane versus multiple, 2 or 3. That's what I found to be most effective and made the biggest change in the overall effect, especially with the Atmos bubble. Now again, may change depending on your setup, but when I took the same patterns and I just started varying the height, that's when I would immediately get the diffuse sound in comparison to just leaving them on a single. And it wasn't just this rectangular one that I ended up with. I tried it with the arc, and I tried it with just spreading out wide. So definitely test that. I think that's what is going to make the biggest difference to most people. We'll see. Again, let me know. I did some brief testing with curtains. Now in Dirac, you're pretty much only going to be changing the curtains on the high end group to group. Dirac is going to measure each speaker group and show you how they can play, and it's going to automatically set the curtains to be in a useful range. It's not going to set them to try and be correcting way above whatever a particular speaker can actually play. I tested, because I had in the past, always made my curves with everything completely open, and I didn't find any difference. So I simply save myself the time now, and I use the default for whatever the high-end curtains are set to. The low one, because I do have really good subs, I have four 18-inch subs, and they're sealed, and they do play in the room down very easily to single digits. By default, Dirac sets your sub curtain to 20 hertz, which is pretty limited for any kind of great sub. So I do drag that all the way to its limit at 10 and place one more control point right there at the end of it, just so it will try to give me as much as I can from the subs. That's the only curtain work that I do, and that's consistent through all of my testing. Crossovers, I simply matched all projects to what my best results are. Crossovers are unfortunately not calculated by Dirac. A lot of people think that whatever Dirac finds, that's going to be the best result. Curtains and crossover, no, they are still trial and error. Luckily, they are easy to dial in because you don't have to do an upload and listen to anything. You can simply look at the chart. It does, however, take time if you're using DLBC, because every time you move any of the crossovers, any amount, you have to then hit the recalculate button and wait for that to go through the whole thing before you see the new chart. So, for example, say Dirac sets all of your crossovers to 70 hertz. First time you do a measurement, and you see the chart. What you're looking for is a smooth crossover transition between your subs and whatever group you're on. You don't want to see a dip, a null, right by that crossover point. So you need to slide it, trial and error. Try 80, recalculate, see what it looks like. Try 90, recalculate. You can go 1 hertz at a time. Just takes time to hit that recalculate and look at your chart. You have to do that for every single group to get your best crossover transition point. So once I found that, I would apply that to every single test. Unfortunately, there's, at least that I'm aware of, no way to save your crossovers. You can save a curve, which helps a little bit, saves a little bit of time. But if you could save your curtains and crossover changes and load those as a preset, that would really help this kind of thing. But this kind of testing is not the typical use for Dirac. So that's why they probably didn't even think about that being as a feature. But just know that does take some time. But don't forget to do it. So a lot of the times, every time I would finish a test, changing the number of points, changing positions, changing levels, whatever, you have to then go through fully, make the filter, save it to a slot, and upload it to your processor. My processor only has 3 slots. I left number 3 as my current best. Never touch that. That's my baseline. That's my touchstone to come back to, both to A/B test and never to lose. I do have it saved, but just in case. So what I was doing is just alternating between my top 2 slots, make a test, upload it to one, listen to it, like it, didn't like it, make some notes, whatever. Next one to go into number 2. A/B test if I needed to, but usually it was very obvious if it was better or worse. So I would just use the 2 slots for that. Unfortunately, I don't know if this is a bug in Dirac or my processor or both, but I would very frequently have my processor lock up as it was trying to save the filter. Now the way it works, if you're new to Dirac, this is a little confusing because in Dirac itself, you'll upload the filter, it'll spin, it'll create it for about a minute, and then it will say uploading to your processor. It's not. It's uploading to the cloud, to the Dirac servers. From there, it gets, I'm assuming, processed a little bit somehow, and then sent from the cloud to your processor. So when Dirac says, save to filter 1 or slot 1 in your processor, it's not. Wait, do not do anything. Look at your processor. My front panel display will have some information. When you're in and using Dirac, mine says Dirac measurement. After about a minute, it starts receiving the file from the cloud servers and it'll say receiving. And then after another minute or so, the more points you have, the larger the file, so it takes longer, it'll say Dirac saving. Now, if it's operating normally, that saving should go very quickly. The processors that Dirac is running on are all very fast, and it shouldn't ever take more than a minute to save and then go back to measurement ready for use. Well, it would frequently just lock up there, and I would have to not only restart Dirac, but power off the processor by the hard button in order for it to reboot and able to reconnect. So I don't know if that's a problem with Dirac or the processor, but I can say that I didn't run into this in the past. However, I also wasn't doing this kind of back-to-back-to-back testing, just hammering it, sending things over and over. So your results may vary there as well, but just watch out for that. The important thing to know is don't start using it right after you see in the software, save to slot 1. It's not. Wait, look, wait for your processor, then you can continue. So A/B testing, you can switch between slots, of course. But like I said, most of the time, just quickly running through a test scene or just part of a test scene, it's going to be instant. Okay, this is not good, or ooh, this is really nice. Save this one for future testing. So that part's pretty quick. Another bug that I've been running into, and again, I don't know if this is because it's a bug in Dirac or a bug with Dirac servers. Over the past week or two, Dirac servers have been under a cyber attack. I do not have any confirmation that it's affecting doing any kind of uploads or measurements or affecting the program itself at all, but I know some of their web server has been offline, and they haven't gone into any details about what the attack is all about or what the synopsis is. They just said they're working on it, but right now you can't get to their changelog or download any previous versions of Dirac. That's how people started to find out, and then Dirac as a company chimed in on the ABS forum that this is what's going on. However, in the program, I would randomly get this license error crash, and it was almost always doing nothing on the computer. It was just sitting there. I was either moving the mic or at the processor. I'd come back and sit down, and Dirac has crashed and it basically said, we can't authenticate your license or something has changed. Please relaunch. Doing nothing. And I couldn't reproduce it on demand. It didn't happen every session. So I don't know if that's temporary or not, but be on the lookout for that. If you get any kind of error, close Dirac, relaunch. If you can't get into your processor, you're going to have to power cycle it. And just one quick note, I don't think this affected anything, but I noticed I did most of my testing on 3.4.4, and then about a week ago, 3.7.2 hit production, so I started using that and started over on some tests. I noticed that the volume calibration results were slightly different between the two, not changing a thing, just sitting at the computer, uninstall one, install the other, go to do a measurement. When you would measure the volume of your speakers in the volume calibration, they would be a couple dB hotter on that screen in 3.4.4. No idea if that made any difference or not. Results-wise, I didn't notice any change, but it's something different in the versions, just something to note. Another thing I wanted to do is save one master project like I was talking about earlier, and then go back to it and just do one master measurement with all the points for whatever pattern I wanted to test, and then go back and delete certain points to make a new measurement pattern, and then save that as a new project. Unfortunately, you can only delete points the first time you run through the volume calibration. And I never noticed this before because I never did this kind of testing before. But when you're doing a from scratch volume calibration, you can add additional points, you can remeasure a point, or you can delete a point. But once you go into filter design, that's locked. Even if you saved it, if you go into the next section, that's locked. So you can't delete a point. That's why you need to start from fresh and branch and save as a new project and do whatever you want to do that way. So that definitely added a lot of time to this whole process, coupled with the fact that had bugs and crashes and had to go through and all the way to the end and create filters and do A/B testing for every single branch. Okay, that is the gist of my notes. Now I'll take you inside and I'll show you visually some of the patterns that I tested so that you can try them out for yourself and let me know how it went for you. And for those wanting details about the boom stand setup that I've got, it's a combination of a few different parts. I'll put links down below to similar ones. These are pretty old, but you can still build one like this. You've got a folding light stand. You've got an extendable boom arm. I have a adjustable umbrella holder here. That's not necessary, but it allows you to angle the end here in any way you may need, but again, not necessary. That's just extra parts that I had because I do a lot of photography. And then I've got the mic adapter here out of the UMic 1. And this allows me to flip the threads around so I can screw anything onto the end of this, even out the sides. But this works really well for just holding the mic. And I think you can see here, you get some serious flex and extension out of this. And it goes even further. It also goes a lot taller. With just the weight of the mic, it really doesn't add a lot of stress. So the boom can go a lot further than you might think just looking at it. And again, if you take this head off, that saves a lot of weight here at the end too. But totally easy to just plop down in one place. And this is an extreme example. You're not even going to be using this in normal measurements. You can just put the stand right in front of your seat and simply angle it, raise it, stretch it, whatever you need to, and get boom, boom, boom right on targets. Super easy, and you don't have to mess with leaning anything or not being able to reach any spots. Forget all that nonsense. This is the way to go. So this is how I actually use it in measurement. I just make sure it's centered and put it into place. I don't end up needing to move this around. I just use the extensions and swivel. This is the #1 position for most of the patterns, including the best one that I found. It's at my ear level, which is just slightly above the seat, perfectly centered. And again, the seat is perfectly centered with the two main speakers. And I've got the top of the mic 8 inches away from where it contacts the seat. So if I was in the seat, according to Dirac's instructions, yeah, I'd be 2 to 3 inches max away from the seat with the head actually back into the headrest. So again, we're about where my nose would be. This is going to be, as far as I'm concerned, the best starting position for any test. Okay, and just to visually run you through some of the patterns that I tested and have been running, this was the second best one, the one that I've had for about the last year with really good results. This one I started where my actual center of my head and my ears were, so a lot closer to the headrest, not 8 inches away. And then what I would do is, kind of like Dirac has, form a virtual sphere around that point. Now, I wouldn't go far back. I would go back a little bit, kind of even to where the seat is, here and here. And I would do them high and low. I would do one down here, just far enough where I'm not affecting the line of sight to any speakers. I'm not going back that way. And I did try it reclined and upright. I didn't find that much of a difference. No difference at all in the Atmos bubble effect. So I just do everything in the upright position. And then I would do some forward, here, over here, and over here. So again, making that 8-point cube with the 9-point center, but shifted forward just a bit. That was my, go-to. Perfectly happy until now. Now, some other notable patterns. I did variations of the storm. I actually varied the position on a few different test patterns. Storm basically says never have any 2 points at the same horizontal plane. So one up here, if you do one over here, drop it down or raise it up a little bit. Make everything random and nothing share a horizontal point. And they don't give any kind of single seat instructions. They only give a multi-seat. So they've got basically instructions for a big, wide rectangle of random vertical spots. And that just didn't work. The bubble was absolutely not there. Sounds would just go diffuse. They would go into the speakers. They would just be from above. No bubble around your head. So did not work for me whatsoever. I did tests with an arc. I would still start at my preferred center point, and then I would keep 8 inches away, and I would do points like this. And I was experimenting with going up to 9 points, down to 5 points. I think I did a 7-point on that as well. And it wasn't bad, but again, it was nothing special. It was pretty much on par with my standard cube measurement. However, it didn't have that great 2-channel performance. I don't know why, but I want to say the more points I did with that, it got better, and it was maybe on par. It was kind of hard to tell some of these effects when it wasn't an obvious thing like it working or not working, but I quickly ruled it out as being really a contender. I tested the multi-point, so I would do, even with the 6-point, I would do multiple measurements here. Like I would do the first point and then do another one without moving the mic, doubling up here again, kind of just seeing if I could prioritize a position or a set of positions. Did not work. The more points period, didn't matter if they were spread out or in the same exact spot, started getting, again, over-processed and getting a little diffuse. And then lastly, my final test, and I tested this a number of ways. Again, first starting point here, and then from there it doesn't matter. In all of these tests, it does not matter which ones you do first, second, or last. It makes no difference. Points are points as far as that goes. But I would just go side to side first. So I'd do 8 inches this way, 8 inches this way, 8 inches forward, again in the center, and 8 inches forward on the other side. And that was it. You could do that backwards. You could mix and match. It doesn't make a difference. The first point, that's the only one that matters. It has to be in the right position no matter what you're testing. And that's it. I mean, that just worked so well for me. And, oh, cool story. In between filming this clip here, which is a few hours later than my previous one you were just watching, another guy on AVS forum tried my recommendations and it worked out really well for him. So that's pretty cool to see data coming in even before I really put out this notice. So that's it. Hope it helps you guys. Check out the links if you need boom info. If you need a UMic 1 or UMic 2, I don't even know if they sell the UMic 1. This is the original with the mini USB connector. The second generation of this and the 2 version has USB-C. But these are a great investment, not just for Dirac, but they're a highly accurate, calibrated microphone for using in whatever you need, even your voice. So check that out as well. That's it. See you next time.